I know. The whole thing.
That would have been awful.
I know. But I totally wouldn't put it past me. But yay, welcome to the team call. I'm so glad to see everyone. Today did not go as planned, but we're getting shit done. And I'm really appreciative that everybody's here and taking the time out of their day to show up. And I'm really freaking excited to hear Ahdri's story today. I have no idea what she's going to talk about, but I just think it's really important that we keep hearing other people's stories and their tips and tricks and just seeing the behind the scenes kind of with their life and their business, and kind of gives us a sense of community and how they got to where they are, and makes us all realize we're all the same, right? All right, well, very unique, but the same in the sense that we can all achieve whatever we want. So, all right, I'm going to shut up, and I love you, and I can't wait to hear.
It's the quickest, best intro ever. Yeah, sorry guys, we're speaking through the intro because I told her that I wrote so much and I definitely want to get through it all and not leave anything out. I do apologize ahead of time that some of this stuff, some of this information may feel like a gut punch in my story, but I didn't want to fill up a bunch of time with like factoids and a bunch of backstory. So I can't really ease you into some of it, and I apologize about that. But I wanted to spend most of the time on talking about things that will help you with your actual leadership and your actual business. So I'm going to put down my gallery view so that I don't get distracted by your beautiful faces, because I squirrel a lot. So the way I want to talk about my story is I want to share with you how my why has evolved, and the evolution of it, and how important it is to let your why evolve. And that's the first part of this. And then I am going to talk to you guys about what I've been posting about for days, of how to not control change, but how to accept and manage unexpected change in your life without letting your business crumble, and the mindset around that. So you need to let your why evolve. You need to constantly reevaluate it. Okay. Maynard of the band Tool, one of my old school favorite bands, he said it the best, because he ended up quitting the music industry. He's since come back, but he quit and went and opened up his own vineyard. And all of the critics were like, why'd you stop? Why'd you stop blessing us with this great music? Even the music you write now is like, it's lame in comparison. And he's like, guys, like, you should be happy for me that I'm not in that place anymore. Like, I was angry and miserable. Like, I'm glad I'm not that person anymore. I'm happy and I want to make wine. So it was just a perfect just example of how it's okay to reevaluate your why. It doesn't mean that your first why wasn't just as powerful. It means that we grow, and growing is good. Okay. So my first why was oh shit, that was loud. My first why was the healthy why. Okay. And which is common, and it's perfect for any new coaches. Granted, some coaches come in with like a super deep why, but most of us come in with just the surface level. I want to get healthy. I want to do good for my kids, whatever, that healthy why. If you're new and you have that common why, take it and own it, because that's where you are right now. And if you're finding that it's not getting you through the hard times, eventually that's when you need to reevaluate your why. So mine was, I was tired of being the big fit girl, right? I worked wholeheartedly at everything. I worked harder than anyone I knew at like yoga. I did a marathon, CrossFit, veganism, Whole30, Whole8 principle, diet pills. I sweat more. I lifted heavier. I ran further. I stretched deeper, and I even hit my diet pills a little harder, like, than anybody that I knew. Beachbody was the only thing that worked. And I did that for years and years and years and years, since I was an early teen. Beachbody, that I just started 2 years ago, was the only thing that worked, and not just worked, but it was the only thing that lasted. Excuse me. So it's a testament to our 3-part regimen, and never forget that. If you're not leading with offering the challenge pack, then you're not helping people. It all truly works together in perfect balance. And I'll move on, but I just want to say this for any new coaches, that the meal plan does not work if you're going and spending 4 hours at the gym. Those 30-minute workouts do not work unless you are on the meal plan. So it all works together. And Shakeology, we all know, is a savior. And if you don't have a separate Shakeology why, you need to get one. Like, you need to dedicate yourself and find out why you love Shakeology and really get that why. Mine is because it cured my peptic disease. And in 30 days got me off prescription medicine and got me away from a bleeding throat and a stomach that would fill and evacuate with acid. Like, real deal, boom, Shake-O why, get one. So that was my health-based why in the beginning. And that why evolved. The last time I spoke on one of Candace's team calls, I talked about this second why. My dad was everything to me, my father. He was my hero. I was a through and through daddy's girl. I had a magical as childhood. Like I had ponies, right? Like every little girl wants ponies. I didn't have ponies because we were rich. I had ponies because we ran a foster horse farm. We rehabilitated abused animals. We were house and horse poor, as my mom said. Like, I was like, you have ponies, you're rich. Like, no, we snuck food into the theater because we were poor. But we were poor because my dad refused to play his evil father's mind games to get any of the family money. He became a long haul truck driver instead, just to avoid having anything to do with his dad or the family money. And that was fine with us. And when I say that my paternal grandfather was evil, I am not exaggerating, you guys. Like, his wickedness led to what created my father's demons. My father was found dead in his tractor trailer in Oklahoma. The autopsy read autoerotic asphyxiation. He had a secret side that he kept like really well under wraps until it killed him. And we still aren't completely sure if it was as much of an accident or it got too heavy for him to hide, and he put an end to whatever wickedness he evolved from by his father's hand. His death was super hard for me to process. I was only 16, but I processed it how I could, and I had done a really damn good job. I was able to love and praise the father that I knew him as for those 16 years. I was able to forgive everything else and just love what a great dad he was to me. His wicked father died a few years ago. And because my dad was deceased, my sister and I inherited all of my grandfather's money. I had a hard time accepting it. It felt tainted, like blood money. From a psychological perspective, I inherited money from the man that killed my father. And that's just the truth of it. I wasn't prepared also for how everyone would treat me once I was wealthy. I lost a lot of friends that I thought were my true friends. I gained a lot of friends that weren't real friends. I watched my sister and my mother just burn through their portions. And I realized that they were doing it for the wrong reasons. So I got my shit together as far as the money and feeling guilty about it. And my new why, my second why came from that. And my new why was to be in the Millionaires Club because I earned it, because I made the father that I knew proud, and not to be in some millionaires club because some old evil son of a bitch finally died. So that was my second why. My third why, flash forward to just after Summit last year, I discovered that my father, my hero, that I fought so hard internally for another 16 years to keep on a pedestal, that hero had been in possession of child pornography. My entire world came crashing down. The man that I based every decision on ever in my adult life, the man I compared every love to, my own personal deity, really truly turned out to be a living, breathing monster. That was a level of change that I would never be prepared for in a million years. I was able to finally take control of, my life and rebuild myself after that. And that led to my third why. And I'll get into how I did that and conquered that change that, Jesus. But it led to my third why, and ultimately my strategy for mindset control. My newest and current why is that I will build my own legacy, You know, because I am not my father's legacy. I am not sexual deviance. I am not the monsters and ghosts and skeletons that I have allowed to live alongside me all these years. I am not what happens to me, because life doesn't happen to me. Life either happens because of me or it simply happens just around me, right? I didn't die. I didn't do those things. It happened around me. Like, you can't say my dad died because of me, right? There's two ways to that, but it just happened around me. And realizing that was like mind blowing. And that is my current why. My current why is you know, will I watch my life be molded and into a sculpture around me by some other artist? Or will I take hold of it and create my own piece of art, you know, with poise and class and transparency, ownership, and ultimately emotional and financial freedom. So that is my current why. And you guys can see just from the evolution of that, why it's so important, whatever's going on in your life, to reevaluate. Because guess what? Being a big fit girl, that shit was not going to get me through what happened last year. No way in hell. Like, I would have crawled into a hole and died. So how to deal with change. All right. 1, don't be an island. And I know you hear this all the time, but I'm going to go deep into it. All right. So I almost immediately shared what happened right after Summit with Bree. And I even kind of I messaged her and I was like, I can't talk about it, but you need to know that I need to talk to you because my life just fell apart. And then I made her wait for like 3 days. I didn't tell Candace right away, my sponsor coach, because I know that she's not a compassionate empath. And as a compassionate empath, I didn't want to burden her with not knowing what to say. So I waited to share with her until I was like, all right, this really is affecting my business. I need to tell Candace what's up so she can know where I'm at. And it helped a lot. And then I shared with a lot of our other team during our team retreat in January. And it was funny because at that point, after I had shared with Bree and shared with Candace, I was like, fuck it, I don't care who knows. I need to get this shit over with so I can move on. And when I shared, because Brad, BizJack, he asked me, he's like, I want to get to know you. And I was like, do you really? Sit down, buddy. And I shared everything with him. And he had this look on his face and he said, why did you feel the need to share that? And not in a bad way. He was asking a good question, like a good leader. And I said, because I'm here to grow. I'm here to learn. I'm here to build my business. I'm not here just to get shit-faced with my friends. That's why I just made you uncomfortable and shared all of that. So number 2 to how to deal with change is, so number 1, don't be an island, because you're not going to figure it out on your own. You need to talk to other people. You need to get it out there so you're comfortable with working on it with yourself. Number 2 is adventure to find the answers. You're not just going to stumble on them. No one's going to hand them to you. Even if you're sharing this with people, no one's actually going to hand you the answer. You have to be willing to go uncomfortable places and adventure to find. It doesn't have to be spiritual. I went and I had tarot card readings, and in my tarot card reading, it's funny because she said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Keep networking. What you're doing is going to work and you're going to make it. And I was like, fuck yes, and then she drew the Michael Angel card, which is ironic because not ironic, it was spooky because that's a statue that's on my father's grave. And she said, something just fell apart. An entire empire just crumbled in your life. And she said, he's mortified, but you're going to be okay. And I was like, hey. And of course that didn't cure everything, but it really helped because I was able to adventure to kind of find some answers and see what direction I wanted to go in. I kept thinking I needed therapy, and that wasn't going to be what I needed. I kept looking for therapists and I wanted to punch all of them in the throat. And so I was like, I just kept putting it off, and I needed to listen to my intuition. And you do too. Anything that you need to grow through, use your intuition, but do not use it as an excuse to not get shit handled. Okay. I ended up going for an Akashic reading instead of therapy, not because it was cheaper, because it was not, but I ended up going with that. And she told me things a therapist would never have even touched on. Not that I'm saying you need to go do that, but for me, it's what was right. And they were all things I needed to hear and accept. So listen to your instincts. Don't force yourself to do anything that you're just, for some reason, really fighting, but use that to go find some other shit. Open up your windows. Don't just close all of them. If you close one, open up 2 more. Okay. So don't use that as an excuse to not move past your own shit. Let's see. So I lost my part. Okay. So I'm saying if some other method just feels wrong, listen to your instincts. Monsters don't go away just because you close your eyes. And that's for any change. Okay. Monsters don't go away just because you close your eyes. They fester. They ruin your personality. They ruin your relationships because you have a shitty personality. It's like you're possessed by them, okay? And they'll ruin your health. So most assholes wouldn't be assholes if they stopped letting their monsters live inside of them. So think of like any just complete dickwads that you know, and really think about what monsters they're living with, right? Because I've seen people that were just complete, I would never want to know them, just turn into incredible human beings once they just got that one thing that they were hiding from handled. You have to not be afraid of going on an epic self-discovery adventure. So don't be afraid to adventure to find the answers. Be willing to accept new information. You will never know it all. And humanity is key, okay? It takes a long time to become a humble as the coach. Like, it takes a long time. I'm still working on it, and I've been doing it for a while. And the problem is that it's not a problem, but the reason is that because we fake it till we make it as coaches, and in a good way, in a very good way. But, and we do that about most things, and that can cause us to build an impressive set of like know-it-all armor, okay? Don't be fooled. Know-it-all armor is always 100% made of glass, and that shit will shatter, okay? So practice humility, and above anything else, strive to be a humble as fuck coach, okay? A side note about that, I'm going to go into this for just a second because it's super important for all coaches, new or old, to hear about the importance of being willing to adventure through humility. It's so important. It's the reason it's important to continue your training as a coach. It's key. I still watch beginner basic stuff. I still listen to calls on topics I already thrive in, because someone is going to say something in a different way to make it either click with you, or something that clicked with you that you've had a hard time explaining to your team, right? That you get, but you just can't put into words to make your team understand. That can be said in a different way and make you realize like, oh, it's perfect. I need to say this to my team. Colleen and Candace, they'll say shit 1,000 times and half of us won't hear it. Not because like we don't want to, but it's because of the old corporate boss subordinate mentality, and we don't hear them. It doesn't sink in. Even if we write it down and we're like, that was a great quote, it doesn't actually click. And then they'll go watch a training or a call about shit they already know and shit they're already good at, but the coach that they're listening to says it in a way that they haven't thought to word it yet. And they go, oh my God, I have to share this with my team. And then guess what? They share it, and half of us go, oh my God, that is amazing. And they're sitting there like, I say it every day. Like, what? You know? So never, ever stop training yourself. Never, ever stop looking for new information. Don't just try to learn about things you don't know. You still need to be accepting of all kinds of new information, because you don't know it all. Okay? So back to it. Number 3, grow as you share. Okay? We don't grow as we know. We don't grow because we learned something. And I was going to sound totally counterintuitive, but just follow me. We grow as we share. Okay? So many coaches hide behind not knowing how to handle a situation or mindset as a reason to not post and share about it. And I'm going to share a secret with you guys that I've never thought to say out loud before until I talked to a friend of mine. And I was like, oh, people don't know this. Okay. At least 85% of the time, and I'm not exaggerating, at least 85% of the time, I haven't discovered something amazing or some new mindset I'm sharing about in my post until I'm balls deep in writing that post. And I'll explain that. But sometimes, it's not that I don't know what I'm writing about until I write it. It's that I don't actually recognize or adopt the mindset that I finally end up writing about until I'm already writing the wrong post. Okay. So here's what I mean by that. When I was talking to my girl Amber, what she felt, we were talking about what she felt was her lack of self-discovery. Not that she doesn't like blow apart PD and always learn about herself, but she felt like she didn't know how to write about a situation if she didn't already hold the key to the answer. Like if she didn't already have her head wrapped around the solution, then as she was writing about it, she's like, I just feel like I'm reading this and I sound like an asshole. Like, you know, even if she wasn't trying to be whiny. And it's true, as coaches, we never complain. Don't ever do that. We post and we share a solution. We give value. But that doesn't apply to the process of you writing the post. Okay, that applies to the post that you click post on. But as you're writing it, you don't have to be writing the perfect post. You don't have to know the answer when you start writing. Because if you start writing about a problem you're having, here's what I want you to do. use this act of crafting your post as like a mini therapy session. I posted, what is one that I posted? I just want to make sure I can just skip something she said. Okay. I posted the other night about my saggy boobs. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I ended up having to rewrite that post for 2 hours. 2 hours. Okay. And I'm not talking about like rearranging paragraphs and adding emojis. I mean, I had to completely change the meaning of that post for 2 hours. And it's not just like figuring out where the power headline is going to come from or delivering the meat and potatoes before the Seymour, like completely changing it. I'm talking about, I write a post because I felt like shit. I wrote a post because I felt like shit about a part of my body. Okay. So imagine where I was at when I started writing that post. The first post was like angsty and bitchy and not helpful to anyone. Okay. Especially me. So I thought to myself, like, Jesus, like, I don't want to seem like such a downer. I'm supposed to be a coach, right? I can't sound like this, even though it's what I'm feeling right now. So I asked myself the important questions. It's just like a good leader. You ask good questions. So you have to turn that on yourself too, not just use it on your team. Okay. So you have to apply it to yourself. So I asked, if I don't want to come across this way, if the person whose words I'm reading, I don't want to be, then who do I want to be? How do I want to come across in this situation? How would I like to inspire people about this topic if I wasn't so like bummed or pissed off or whatever? Like if I wasn't feeling how I'm feeling about it right now, how would I want to sound? And that's a really hard question to ask yourself when you are in the middle of emotions and the feels, especially if they're pissy feels. But that's when you got to put on big girl panties and ask yourself that question and answer it on, because you'll never answer it with, I want to sound like an asshole. You'll never do that. I should hope. If you do, then you might need to do some more PD. But then I rewrite that post after I ask the question and I have a grasp on like, you know what, this is who I want to sound like in this post. I rewrite the post from that perspective, even if it doesn't feel true to the emotions that I'm feeling in that very moment. It will. It's not fake. You thought of the alternate approach. You are still writing the words. They're positive affirmations to manifest the leader, the coach, the inspiration that you want to be for your followers. So don't ever think of it as being fake or anything like that. You're actually giving yourself a mini therapy session by doing this, okay? By putting yourself in that future badass you role and writing it from the future, okay? All of these things culminate in how to shift your mindset. All of those things that I numbered. When you feel the world's against you, it's not as simple as asking yourself, like, do you want it to be a good day or do you want it to be a shitty day? Like, we all know that, right? It's not that easy. And we need to stop telling our followers that it's that easy, okay? You can't get away with a post that's just like, I thought I was gonna have a shitty day, but I decided not to. That doesn't help your followers. That just makes you look cool. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing. Get into why. Get into why you're able to make that decision for a good day. All right? And if you don't know the answer yet, you'll find it if you read your post before you post it and ask yourself who you want to come across as to your followers. Just because you had like an aha moment while you were writing about the aha moment that you hadn't actually had yet, that doesn't make it any less of a breakthrough. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Okay, so here's how I apply it to me right now. Like, do you really think that I got excited? Because I made a post this morning about, all right, the universe is still throwing shit at me, but I'm excited. Do you really think I was excited when I got a quote that my truck repairs are going to be $3,500 more than we were expecting? Or when we were told that there was a drop fee of $200 just to take a rental car from Georgia back to Florida? Or when we went to the vet for the third time this week, capping off that week's vet bills at just under $1,000? Or when I pulled most of the muscles in my neck and my already hurt arm by falling down the stairs? Or as I was riding in a taxi through a rural foreign country to their hospital? Or when I dropped over $700 there for an x-ray that didn't show anything, or $300 to the resort because I fell on their property, or when I got word that our RV was not going to be finished for an extra 2.5 weeks, which stranded us in Georgia, Or when we had to bunk up at Darren's dad's house. Y'all love living with your in-laws, right? That's fun. Super fun. Or when both of my dogs got a stomach virus at the same time, effectively ruining Darren's dad's carpet. Like all of this stuff, you know, do you think, this makes my stomach turn saying it, I was excited when I was told today that I will not be recognized at Summit this year for being an all-star Success Club 5 earner. Do you think I was excited about that news? And all because of a clerical error, and out of the 211 personal volume points that I thought that I had in February, only 76 of them were from HD orders. Do you think I was excited when I heard that shit? No. And I listed all the things I just said, I listed in the post I was making this morning, like almost verbatim. I worded it that way. And then I went and I started to read it. And I realized I sounded like one of those friends that like you love, but Jesus, every time you talk to them, all you're getting is a bullet point list of all the shit that's wrong in their life. Like we all have that friend or that relative, right? And I realized that that's what it sounded like. And it wasn't actually going to help anybody, even though I was ending it on a positive note, right? I was giving a little bit of, but this is how I'm going to overcome it. I asked myself, like, is that really how I want to inspire people? And I said, fuck that. And I rewrote it. And as I was writing it in the way my dream me would perceive the situation, because guys, I was still pissed off about the stuff, right? I began to adopt that mindset because I was writing as if I was already in it. Okay. And instead of the majority of people apologizing for me having a shitty day, people started commenting and telling me how those words inspired them. Do you see the difference there? Someone that pours anxiety onto others and then expects to inspire them with a positive note about how they're surviving anyway, that's not what we're supposed to. That's not what a coach is. You've just impaired them with your shit. That's all you did. Even if you added that extra little positive thing at the bottom, you just dumped it on somebody. It takes 7 compliments to erase 1 insult, right? So with that psychology in mind, your little anecdote at the bottom of your PD about how you're going to prevail, all the shit you just listed, it doesn't even scratch the surface of erasing the downer you just dropped on them. I'm not telling people you can't tell, I'm not telling you can't tell people what's wrong in your life, but you've got to come at it from that future self and share it in a true way. That's not just complaining with a little bit of, but I'll survive anyway. It's the difference between someone commenting, wow, you're so strong. I definitely would have caved under all that pressure. Go you. You didn't actually inspire them. You made them think that you're a badass. That's what you did. Meanwhile, you didn't do anything to help them. You just stuck a stiletto under your own pedestal. So they still think you're awesome. But that didn't help them at all. That just made them wish even harder they could be you, but it didn't make them think they could. Difference between that or, whoa, that's such a refreshing perspective. I was about to let this day get to me, but you're right. The world is not out to get me. That kind of response means you successfully lifted them up. You successfully served them. That's the difference, okay? So stop trying to get people to admire you and start trying to get people to join you in self-discovery so they can admire themselves. How did I do? How much time do I have left?
10 minutes. The timer just went off. That was so good.
10 minutes. Good. We have time for questions.
I love what you said just now about the perspective thing because it's so true. And or not perspective. I said that about the posting thing and about just changing. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it really changed my perspective when I write now because I write a lot, but that made so much sense. Like I'm not trying to make people think I'm awesome, but when I just share the struggles and like that's all, but like look what I did anyways. You're so right. It makes people be like, oh, I could never do that. Like, yeah.
And it's so easy to get caught in that because we do want people to know what badasses we are, and we just get stuck in thinking that that's what's going to inspire them, but it's not. Any questions? Unless it's like repeat everything but slower.
Hey, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I just started out as a Beachbody coach. My name is Sarah. I work under Chelsea. And I want to know what the hardest challenge was for you when you
The
first started
hardest
your
challenge
business.
for me, hold on, can you mute yourself again? It's echoing because, okay, sorry. The hardest challenge for me was, damn, that's a good question. So I had a lot. I'll just list a couple of them. One, the hardest challenge was for me to talk to address the people that I wanted to be with me, because I'm such, like I said, I'm a compassionate empath, and I'm such a hardcore people pleaser because I was raised by a complete martyr. I love her to death, but it's true. That I was like, I want to help all the people, right? I was so stuck in that mindset of I want to help all the people that I ended up with a whole bunch of people that just wanted to drag me into their misery and drag me into their laziness and just want, free therapy, or to complain. So it's a really fine line. And I didn't learn it for like a year and a half. I didn't learn that fine line between talking to the old you and talking to the awesome you that was hidden in the old you. Like, there's a really fine line there. So be careful when you're talking to the old you. I really prefer when people talk about writing to their avatars. I really prefer that over addressing the old you, because you do end up, you attract your old ghosts, and then it's hard and you get stuck in the wrong kind of serving. So that was a big one. And the next one after that was getting from the beginner coach mindset into the CEO mindset. Colleen, I don't even know how many times she said those words to me, that you've got everything, you're doing everything, we just need to get you into the CEO mindset. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? That doesn't help me. Like, those are just words. And it took me forever. And I still really haven't fully grasped how to interpret that and explain it from how I understood it to my team. But really, I know part of it is being able to talk to the people that you want to attract, the ride or die bitches that you want on your team. And I'm still trying to get better at that. Even in the last week, like I've been trying new things and getting better with that. I've actually been addressing specifically when I say, I want to do this, and people are scared of being their own boss because it means responsibility. And really, most people are lazy. And I've actually started throwing in, like, are you lazy, or are you a badass that wants to be your own boss? And before, I would never say something like that, because like I was so stuck in wondering what they were going to feel with my words, instead of really focusing on what I wanted to say to them in the first place. So, but those are really all tips for someone that's stuck in the people pleasing mindset. So I know it'll help like a huge handful of you guys, but people that are awesome and aren't people pleasers, like, you probably have that all figured out by now. Awesome question, Sarah. Anyone else? So quiet. There's so much in the chat. Were there any questions in the chat box?
We were just talking about boobs and socks and stuff.
Awesome.
Seriously. I love what you said about be willing to accept new answers. I think that's so important. Like, I feel like my life changed hearing just some of the stuff you said and the thought process between how you write your posts. I'm like, oh my God, everything I've been doing sucks. That's pretty much what because you hear new things and you're like, whoa. And I'm sure someone said that to me before, but it's just like the way that you worded it. Huge.
Exactly. That's why it's so important. And I have a lot of, I'm not personally on my team, but I've seen a lot of coaches come and go, on Dream Corp and Rising Lotus, that they'll scoff when we say, don't put one of your new coaches in a new coach training unless you put your own ass in there. Not just so you can support your new coach, but because you need to be constantly hearing things that, one, you might not have fully heard before, but two, to be able to relate them to your coach. Because guess what? You're going to get to where you're like at such a high level and you're a CEO and you're rocking it. You're going to forget you're going to forget what it was like to be a new coach. Like you are, which is, you're going to forget the hard stuff, which is awesome. But you're going to forget what it really felt like. And then the advice you're going to give your new coaches is going to be words. It's going to be you saying, you need to be in the CEO mindset, and then being like, what? But Colleen's still awesome at talking to new coaches, but you know what I mean? So yeah, always be a sponge. And don't ever get so far up your own ass, because we get it's so important to participate in team pages and to help other coaches and all kinds of stuff. But, and I did this a lot the first year. When you give someone your answer or advice, make sure that you are super humble about it. You know, even now I still say, like, granted, I'm still learning shit and I'm still growing, but this is how I'm doing it right now. Make sure you preface that, because some new coaches will take, if you give them matter of fact, that know-it-all armor advice, and then you learn a year from now that that advice wasn't right, that new coach ran with it with you, it's really not fair. So always just strive to be humble and know that you're always growing too. And that will, you know, being a coach is about not being an asshole and teaching the world not to be an asshole. So.
Very true. I love that. Be humble. We forget. I mean, we think, for me, I always came from a place of being, in a household where what I say goes type of thing. So I grew up with that learned behavior, like what I say goes, you know, and I've learned in this business, like, there's so many different ways to do things. And like, so I'm always like, in my opinion, because I don't know how else to say it without making sure that people know that just because I said it doesn't mean it's the right way. Like,
exactly. Yeah. And I'm definitely, I'm have a strong power of duality. So I can make a lot of people do what I want them to do. And being a control freak is very easy. And so I really always have to remind myself to step back, because if I feel like it's the right answer in that moment, then I'm like, you have to do this. But then I have to be like, remember all those things you fucked up in the past? Like, maybe you should preface this with, granted, I've fucked some stuff up in the past, but, you know, so I have to check myself all the time.
Same. We have less than a minute, and I just want to say I'm really proud of you, and I'm really grateful for you, and I really appreciate everything that you shared. It was super helpful, and I love that you opened your heart and you trusted us with that. It means a lot.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening. And I know I talk a million miles a minute, but you're Candace's coaches. You totally get that.
All right. Love you guys. Happy Wednesday.
Love you.
Damien.
Bye.
Bye.